Hey everyone, it's Ron, and you're watching what Ron Plays, and we are here to do a follow-up game review for Farthest Frontier. I did one about 6 months ago. You can find the link in the description down below. That was on version 8.1. This is for version 8.3. They did make some pretty significant changes, satisfying, I guess, some of the cons that I had that I pointed out in that review. And this one's going to do a little bit of an update. And let you know what I think about 8.3. I have had a few requests to do this, or what my opinions are on the changes they made in 8.3. We also have some dev notes coming up at the end, some of the changes that are going to be coming up in version, I guess I'm calling it 8.3. It's actually 0.8.3. They did say some things that are going to show up in 0.9 and for the ultimate release. So look forward to going through this review, and stay till the end to find out what the devs have to say. So without further ado, let's get going. As I usually do with these, I do a little bit of a background, the pros, the neutrals, and the cons, and then give it a score at the end. It won't be as quite in depth as the first one, because we did cover the game already, but there are some significant changes. For those of you who haven't watched the other one, Farthest Frontier is a game developed by Crate Entertainment, and it was released on August 9th, 2022 as a early release game. So it's been not quite a year, but they've actually done a lot of updates during that time. So one of the most significant ones being 8.3. It is for sale right now on Steam for $29.99, which is a little pricey for an early release game, but you know, if you get it now, I think it's a pretty good deal. They released version 8.3 on May 19th, so it's been a couple months. And I put about 40 hours into this city, so it's pretty large. You'll see my population is just about capped out. I was trying to test to see what the highest population would be, and it keeps going up to about 1,001, and then it goes back down again. So I'm having a feeling right around 1,000 is the maximum population you can get. So this one's doing pretty good. I've got pretty good food amounts. Everybody's pretty happy about everything except for entertainment, because you could never keep enough beer flowing, I guess, even though we have beer. But anyway, got double walls all the way around. Big industrial area over here. Everywhere else is living area. And we've got our farms down to the south. Or our barns, I should say. Those are all available for upgrading. I'm not worried about that now. You know, we've just got orchards like all over the place. The arborists really come in handy. Got some extensive mining up on the hills up here, that we'll talk about in a little bit. So I've kind of spread myself out quite a bit. So you can tell I've been playing a while because there's a lot of people in the cemetery. So had a lot of people killed. But anyway, let's get on with the review. So, full disclosure, I did pay for my copy of this game. I did not get the game given to me to review, which in some cases I have, and I do let you know when I do the review. And as usual, it does not affect my reviews at all. So, let's get into some of the pros right away. As with the first, as I said in the first review, the graphics in the game are just stunning. I mean, if you look at all the little details on the building, you know, here's our town hall. It's got tons of cool little graphic features. I know the trading post has cool stuff on it. I mean, just everything looks great. I mean, look, they got them like making their little clay pots. I mean, the details just very cool. Here's the rat catcher. You can see the little rat on the sign down there. So, I mean, the graphics in this game are just second to none, I think. Especially for this type of game where you really don't have to, you know, you really wouldn't have to put in this kind of effort. But I mean, like, the woodcutters are cool. I think the marketplaces are pretty cool too, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, you got woodcutters. That's the storage, so that's where they're keeping the planks and the wood and the logs. We have got a marketplace up here, so we've got our different stalls selling the different things. I mean, you can see the meat like sitting there. So I mean, the graphics are stunning, and pretty much anybody that's played the game has said that they're pretty impressive. Another thing I like about the game is the concept of compost. So this was discussed in the first review a little bit. It's really cool because you have to build these compost yards in order to collect the waste from the different buildings. You also need to collect them from the barns, but you usually don't have to concern yourself too much with that. As long as once you see waste starting to show up, or preemptively, you could do it beforehand, you could just start dropping these compost yards everywhere. The only downside is they have to be far away from the population areas. And one of my criticisms in the previous review was the fact that it didn't place they didn't place the compost automatically. And that's one of the things they improved in 8.3 is now you have this auto compost. One of the big pains is you'll see the way these are kind of close, but you'll see the way all my compost yards, this one, that one there, that one in the center there, you'll see one up there. I think we have some more up to the bottom down here, I think. No, over here. I think they're over here. Maybe I didn't put any to the south. Oh yeah, I put some down here. So they're all around the outside. And in version 8.1, it did not automatically empty these. So you had to physically go to each one, click on whichever bin you wanted to empty, and you had to physically go to a plot and put it on there. And that was a major criticism to the first one, because that was just terribly, terribly annoying. So big kudos to them, because that is something I pointed out. Big kudos to them for fixing that. So they basically run themselves now, and it'll automatically, you'll see, for instance, this one is composted, this one's composted. So they just popped up, and you'll see that one's at 95%, the other one's at 98%. So it's keeping the fertility nice and high on these. One thing I don't notice that the fertility starts a little bit lower now. I didn't think that was a problem before. So at the beginning, fertility was really taking a beat down until these compost yards really got going, and now it keeps them at 100%. I don't have to worry so much about having to keep certain things, because you'll look at this like this. Your clover improves. If you looked at the second from the bottom stat, it improves the fertility by 3%. But these are few and far between. This one, your peas puts it up by 1%. So those do improve fertility, but you want to be growing things like wheat and rye in order to make bread, and to you want wheat to make beer, for instance. You'll see that that's a -6 to fertility. This is a -5 to fertility. So you need those compost huts, or those compost yards, excuse me, to be able to drop compost on these for you. So you don't really have to limit yourself with them. They're pretty, low maintenance. I think they just have a single person that operates them. Yeah, it's just a single person. They run on their own. It does have a monthly cost of 4, though, so it's not free. It's not, it could be a little bit of a cost at the beginning, so you have to be a little bit careful. The Arborists are great. I commented those also. Another improvement with 8.3 is now you have this auto replant, so it automatically replants when the trees die. That was kind of a pain in 8.1, because once they died, you'd have to go back and you'd have to replant each tree. Granted, it didn't happen very often, because you can see, you have a lifespan of the trees. I think I have newer ones over here, possibly. I think these probably have a longer lifespan. Oh, those are almost gone. But what's nice is once these run out, so these have 91, 96 months left. They vary a little bit. Once these run out, it'll automatically replant them. You also have the ability to plant in groups. You'll see I can plant them by 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, and that's simply just, how many squares you want to plant at a time. I think the most I do is 2 by 2. I still do 1 by 1 because you're only doing it once. That's what's nice. You don't have to keep doing it over and over again like you used to have to do it. So love the Arborists. They're great. You can put them just about anywhere. If you look at fertility, I've got them in pretty highly fertile areas. You don't have to. You can put the Arborists pretty much anywhere. In the grand scheme of things, I probably want to put fields on these high fertility areas, but I wasn't too worried about it. You know, my food's in good shape. As long as you have like 5 or above up there, you know, it's been 9, 10 lately, you're in pretty good shape. So really like those arborists. The trading is decent. I like the way the trading works. You know, some people say they'd like you to be able to go out and get more, like, you know, send out traders to other cities or villages. I don't really think you have to. I think that, you know, the fact that when the traders come, some carry different things than others, I actually think that's kind of a cool idea. You know, it kind of makes you have to be a little more strategic. You know, if I'm running low on candles and I just want to run out and get candles and I can just get them at any time, it kind of depletes the amount of planning you have to do. So I really like the trading system. I like when they come, you know, I've got all this stuff staged ahead of time. You know, I think I only need like 80 candles at a time, so I can say I only need 80, and when I click it, 85, so they'll start moving candles to my trading post. So when traders get here, I can trade for it right away. So I actually think it's a good system. I don't think you want it any more complicated than it is. One of my huge beefs with my last review in 8.1 was this dreaded window right here. What happened in 8.1 is every time a person died, it would just leave a blank spot. So if I had miners start dying, if I had sawyers stop dying, worst of all, if I had guards start dying, they would just be gone, and it would show like 105 out of 108. And the problem is you get attacked. This guard tower only has one person in it. This guard tower only has one person in it. And suddenly they're breaking through your walls and you're like, what the heck is going on? You click down here. Oh, there's a bunch of red here because you got a whole bunch of people missing because they've been dying for the last 6 months. You had to keep opening this window over and over and over and over and over again. And I told, you know, I said in my first review, I said, what, you know, if I'm, you know, the head of this city, I'm going to have somebody in charge of employment that's going to keep an eye on this stuff and make sure that, you know, positions are filled. And all they did was just add this autofill professions. Beautiful thing. Oh my gosh, it was a huge improvement to 8.3. And that definitely went from one of my cons to one of my pros. I really like the way this system works. I mean, it's not too complicated. You can just look at your numbers. You can see I'm way under in laborers, which means my stuff isn't getting moved around nearly as good as it should be. But that's neither here nor there, because now I'm just doing this for the review, so I'm not really too worried about it. Last thing I have as a pro is the map seed. It's kind of cool because, you know, you can reload maps over and over again. You do get a seed number, so if somebody wants to play the same game you're playing, you know, they can do that. And, you know, that's pretty cool. It's very random. What I do like too is that things are showing up as you play the game. So some of these mines, you know, some of these deposits weren't here when I first started. So it's cool that, you know, these things show up and make themselves known as you play the game. It's a pretty cool thing. My neutrals, they did add deep mines in version 8.3, which are pretty much bottomless mines. You know, having played it now, kind of useless to tell you the truth, in my opinion. For instance, if I look at this mine, oh, this one's not active, so that's a bad example. But if I go to, let's say, a gold mine, I've got 4 people working this gold mine, or 8 people, excuse me. I've got 8 people working a standard gold mine that's given me 35 gold last year. If I go down here to this endless gold mine, it's bottomless. You have to be tier 4 to get it. And I look at this and I've got 10 people working, so I've got 2 more people working, and it's only giving me 13. So for the same number of people, actually a couple more, I'm getting about 1/3 of the production. So, you know, I mean, I get it because it's bottomless. I don't think the fact that there's 2 of them here makes any difference whatsoever. You know, these should have been farther apart, I guess. I don't think it's giving me any benefit. I don't think it's giving me any penalty. But the fact that, you know, I've got 2 more people working here in the other one, and I'm making 1/3 of the product, I'm really struggling to even say that it's worthwhile. The only reason I'm using it at all was just kind of an experiment. I've got another one up here. You know, it's coal. The thing is I'd say that a full 16 people in here probably do the same output as maybe 6 people in a regular mine, maybe 4. So I think the trade-off is just horrible. Are these mines going to run out, the standard mines, before the end game's over? I don't know. I mean, if I look at this one, I've still got 26,000 out of 30,000 resources there. So, I mean, to me, I don't know. I'm kind of sticking with regular mines. The only time I think I would ever go with a deep mine, maybe if I'm really playing the game, is maybe if I have no other option on the whole screen, if there's just nothing there. I mean, if I go here, I've got 2 more gold mines. I've got another one there. This one's making a pretty good amount. I think I had another one over here also. Oh, I can't get to it. So I've been I've been messing with flattening out the land, and I don't think anybody can get to it now. I'm not able to get to it. So I'm just going to keep messing with it until it's just, like, unusable. But we'll see. So I honestly think, in my opinion, that the deep mines are a waste of time. I just really do. So I hope, it's a neutral. It's something that they thought it was being, improved upon. I don't really think it is, personally. Another neutral is the crop system. I like the crop system. It's interesting. You can really get into it and start nitpicking. You can actually keep your fields. You can keep them fertile without having to use any compost. Of course, by default, that's where the compost goes. But I mean, you do have these improving ones. This will get you a +3. This one up here will get you a +1, I think. I think there's another plus in here somewhere. Not sure where it's at. There might not be. Those might be the only 2 pluses. Yeah. Oh, you got a +1 out of beans. The only thing you kind of have to keep an eye on, for instance, here is frost tolerance and heat tolerance. It's got no frost tolerance, so you don't necessarily want to grow it early. Does it have that much of an effect? Not really. Your rockiness and weed level, that's all taken care of by just putting one guy in here and one of the season rotations. I don't pay any attention to the soil mixture. I don't really pay any attention to estimated yield. I don't look at any of this down here. I just basically put in what I want, make sure cold stuff's at the beginning. And at the beginning, when you first start, you're going to have to use a lot more of these clovers because, as I mentioned earlier, your compost yards aren't going to be putting out compost yet. So you just want to be aware of that. So I think, to me, it's a little more complicated than it needs to be. It's nice because some other games, I have to go out and I have to find cabbage seeds and I have to find carrot seeds and, pea pods to grow things. Here you don't. They're already there, which makes sense. So I think, that's a nice thing. You don't have to go out digging for them. So I think all in all, it ends up being a neutral. Another neutral is an improvement in 8.3 was the ability to move a graveyard. So this graveyard was actually all the way down to the south side of my city. So I think that graveyard at the beginning was like right in here somewhere. So I was able to move it. I think it cost me like 300 gold. Now if I want to move it, it's full. It's 520 ingots. So if I want to move this somewhere else, I can move it, but it costs me 520 gold. This one's going to be a little bit more, I think. Yeah, 1,300 gold to move that one. What's nice is you can move them. Is it realistic? I don't know. To me, I still think it's a neutral because it's cool that you can move them, but they don't deteriorate. In games like Settlement Survival, these headstones deteriorate over time. I mean, my game, I'm at year 166, so some of these have been here 166 years. You'd think they'd be deteriorated by now. You could start reusing the land, but unfortunately you can't. So to me, instead of moving them, maybe they just deteriorate. So, because obviously I wouldn't want to make, this many graveyards close to my city. So I put that as a neutral. Now the cons, still the killer to this game is there's still no goal. There's no goal. So now I'm at 990 people. I can push it up to about 1,000 and there I'll sit. and do what? Again, I'm just playing the game till I'm bored and then I stop. So I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth when I quit the game because I'm just doing it because I'm bored. So that's a pretty bad premise. So, but we'll touch more on that in just a little bit. One of the things I've been noticing is the performance is kind of getting worse, I think, with 8.3. It does get glitchy. Right now I've got it on 1 speed. You know, I could crank up to 3 speed. And sometimes when you're moving it around, you know, it gets kind of jittery, it gets kind of buggy. You know, I don't have a slouch system. I mean, I've got an i9. You know, I'm running a GeForce RTX 3070, I think. Maybe just check the box down there. It's a 3060, which still isn't, you know, chump change. Got 32 gigs of RAM, some nice Corsair, I think it's DDR6. But I mean, it's a decent system. I mean, I can run pretty much every online multiplayer game and, you know, an ultra without any issues. When I loaded this game just now for this review, it took 4 minutes and 10 seconds. I timed it a little bit one yesterday and it took like 4 minutes and 5 seconds, and 4 minutes is a long time to wait for the game to load. Well, I should say this particular game. The game itself will load and, you know, to the main menu in 15 seconds. And mind you, I do have, you know, almost 1,000 population. It's got to populate all these buildings, etc. But man, 4 minutes is a long time to wait for somebody to sit here just watching the little progress bar go across the bottom. I mean, there's a couple times I didn't even think it was working, to tell you the truth. Another con is you still can't recover the gear from raiders. That annoys me to no end, and we will touch on that in a little bit because there will be a change coming up, but it still kind of drives me nuts because when my guys die, my armor and my weapons and everything disappear. And you know what? They disappear and they're sitting right in the middle of the city, but yet I can have piles of raiders laying all over and you can physically see swords laying next to them and you can't pick them up. So I think that's just, it's a little bit annoying to me. And my last one is remote housing. I don't think remote housing actually works. I don't remember if I have any left because I think I might have taken them all out. But in your housing category, you've got a temporary shelter. I have been placing some of these temporary shelters around throughout this game just to take a look at it, and I've never seen a person inside a temporary housing. It makes sense. You know, here's my temporary shelter. Nobody. There's never anybody in there. It can be the dead of winter. You know, and I think the idea is, you know, these people can work out here and they don't have to go all the way back home. Well, apparently isn't true because they're never full. Like, never. I mean, I never even have a single person in there. So I've just scrapped them all. You know, I've torn them all down because they're just kind of useless, if you ask me. I don't know if it's a mechanics problem, if they have programming they have to work out, but it would be nice because, you know, I've got some really remote, you know, some really remote areas back here where I have a feeling, you know, and I'm not really paying much attention. I'm not too worried about it, but I have a feeling these people that are going up here to work, they probably, by the time they get there, they're like mining for like 5 minutes and having to run all the way back to bed. So I don't think much work is actually getting done here as it should. But if they had one of those temporary shelters right there, they should just be able to stay there for an extended period of time and just, you know, make it happen. But I don't think they do. I don't think it works because, as I said, I set up probably 6, 7, 8 of them in this city at one time, and never did I have even one person show up in them, so I just scrapped them. Didn't really want to take the time to worry about them anymore. So onto the devs notes. They did say at 0.9 they're going to add spirituality, so there's going to be, basically you're going to build your own religion. They're not going to have individual religions from what they've said. What they're going to do is, oh, let me see what's going on here. Did I uncheck that? Oh, because I'm almost out of people. Nice. That's crazy. Anyway, that's I was wondering why these building for or room for more workers was popping up. But normally I try and control the population a little bit more, but as I said, for this review, I'm not really worried about it anymore. Okay, so back to the developer notes. They're going to add spirituality, which is basically religion. And what you're going to do is you're going to collect artifacts. You're going to be able to buy artifacts from the traders, and you're going to be able to find artifacts in ruins. And you use these different artifacts to give bonuses to your city. So you basically build your own religion. You can name it what you want. You'll get special talents, special rewards, things like that. And it sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. So it's going to be a little bit less of a traditional religion. You're not going to choose Christianity or anything like that. Catholicism, it's Buddhism, anything like that. I guess you create your own from scratch. That's pretty cool. Another thing they talked about is combat updates. They are talking about having catapults, horsemen to counteract those catapults, and patrolling soldiers. Patrolling soldiers I like a lot because it's kind of annoying that all your soldiers are sitting in your fort up here, and you have to keep sending them out places to fight. That's pretty annoying, to tell you the truth. To have roving soldiers run around your city, that would be great, and the fact that you don't have to have a fort to do it will also be very nice. So I think that's a good thing coming up in version 0.9. Also, catapults, I don't know if I love that, because they'll start being able to hit the interior of your city. I guess it's a little more realistic, but do I really want catapults set up out here just pummeling the inside of my city? I think it could make it pretty annoying, but we'll see. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Horsemen, that's going to lead up to another dev point in just a minute, but it's interesting to have those. You'll have to feed them, of course, which can make things a little more difficult. But we'll see. We'll see how that works. Another industry they're talking about adding in 0.9 is the paper industry. And with the paper industry, you're also going to have libraries that'll contribute to entertainment, which is good, because I can never seem to get these pubs working right. Even though they have alcohol beverages, it always says they're not providing any entertainment. I'm not sure why, because she's there and there is alcohol in storage. So not really sure why it isn't happening. I guess transferring goods is 72%, but it seems like all of them go out at the same time. So I don't know if it's a work issue, or if because they're out grabbing more beer, maybe they're spending too much time getting beer, which could be the case now because I'm running so low on people. I mean, I've got 2 when I need 102 laborers, so that's a pretty miserable number. But it'll be nice to have a library. It'll to also help out with entertainments. That'll definitely be a good thing in version 0.9. Another thing they're talking about is guild halls. So you'll be able to build a guild hall, and that guild hall will give you bonuses to one industry. So you'll be able to pick one industry within your city, and it'll give you a bonus, and obviously up the production of whatever that one industry is that you choose. So that'll also be interesting, because it'll give you a little more of a customization option to your build. And last but not least, well, no, it's not last but not least. There's one more. They're also going to have Crips. So instead of just having individual headstones and having 50 square miles of headstones, you'll be able to make Crips. So you'll be able to bury people kind of stacked on top of each other, I guess. So that'll be a good thing going forward. And then now, last but not least, we're going to get new animals. And I know I talked about that in my 8.1 review, but they are talking now, because they did say it was a very low priority, but now they're talking about making chickens, horses, and goats. So that will be outstanding. It's obvious you'll have to make horses, because you're going to have horsemen. The horsemen are going to be the troops that counteract the catapults, so you'll have to be able to raise them. So that'll be cool. And it'll be cool to have goats. Now, I don't know if those chicken and goats will have other products. Are you going to be able to gather the chicken feathers to make beds, bedding, pillows? I'm not sure. but we'll see when it comes out. So I think there's a lot of cool things coming up for 0.9. I think 8.3 improved on quite a few things that made the playability much better. Being able to move the graveyards, the compost automatic distribution was a huge plus. And I also think that, auto refilling professions was also a huge plus. Granted, now I'd have to go through and I have to pinpoint which things I want to reduce because, my labor count is so low. I'd probably just go to a bunch of my mines and lower my mine count. But, that's something that I adjust. It's not something that you want to do all the time, especially up till this end game portion. Up until probably 800 population, I had no issues. This was always in the 100 area. I mean, everything was just ticking along perfectly. So it was really, really nice to have that in there. So I really think that those improvements with 8.3 were really good. The only one I'm kind of sketchy about is the the bottomless mines. I don't think they necessarily help that much, at least in my opinion. And that's my review. I will bump their score up a little bit. I was a little bit hard on them in the first review, and I think it's because there's no end game. The end game really bothers me. But they did mention end game and adding achievements. Achievements would be good, but I'm really hoping they add some goals at the end. They kind of call this end game, but as I said, I could let this city run forever, and just not do anything more. And then I'm like, well, I'm tired of this, close the game. And that's my mentality I have when I leave the game. And that's a bad thing. So, hopefully they'll button that up. But I know they're going to release 0.9 and then they're going to release 1.0, and the 1.0 is going to be when they come out of early release. So really looking forward to that. Don't think they have a time frame on 0.9 yet, but I'm looking forward to that. So I will up their score to an 8, a very solid 8. I think 0.9 sounds like a 0.9 version 0.9 seems like it could get them up to a solid 8.5. There's just too many kind of loose ends out there. I think the performance issues need to be fixed. But there's still like little things that make the game clunky. Would I suggest buying it for $29.99? I would. It's still an enjoyable game. It's interesting, and I think it's only going to get better. They might actually raise the price when they go into full release. So it might be a good idea to get it as is. So my final word is I give it a score of 8.0 out of 10. So if you've got any comments, concerns, suggestions, or anything about the game that you like, dislike, please feel free to leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, please like the review so more people can find it. Consider subscribing to the channel to help it grow. I do quite a few game reviews, and I'm hoping to put quite a few more out in the fairly near future. And if you do subscribe, make sure you click that notification bell to be notified of our future videos. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you again for joining me. I'm Ron, and you've been watching Ron Plays.